Imagine you leave your house only to discover that you forgot to put on your shoes. Or imagine you get in your car on a snowy 10-degree day only to discover you forgot to put your coat on. Or still yet imagine you arrive at a formal banquet only to discover that you're not allowed in because you forgot the tie that goes with your tuxedo. There are many believers in the kingdom that are walking around half-dressed, and they're losing big time. Imagine you're in the military and you've just gone off to war. Out on the battlefield, as you engage the enemy, you discover that you forgot your gun. The enemy shoots you in the arm. You take off running and you manage to escape. Then, one more time, out of nowhere, the enemy comes at you, and this time you reach for a grenade on your belt only to discover you left your grenade in the Humvee. Again, the enemy shoots you, and this time in the leg. Again, you barely manage to escape. Finally, as you retreat, you come face to face with the enemy one more time. You drop to the ground, pull up your trousers over your right leg, and reach for the knife in your boot. You discover you left the blade back in the backpack in the barracks. And this time, the enemy lunges at you, stabbing you in the heart, and you die. Now, why did you perish? Because you walked on the battlefield to do war against the enemy half-dressed. And many believers attempting to do war against the enemy stand defeated because they're not wearing the full armor of God. Paul states it like this, Ephesians 6:10, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes." Now, you must think it's important because you read on, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the powers of the dark world, against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And what does he say? What does he repeat? Verse 13, "Therefore, put on the full armor of God." So when the day of evil comes, you'll be able to take your stand. And after you've done all, you'll be able to stand. So it's crystal clear in the Bible. In order to take our stand against the enemy, we must put on the full armor of God. Now, next week, we will go through each individual piece of the armor of God. The belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. You need to know the significance of each piece. But before we explain the importance of each armor piece, we must deal with verse 11 and verse 13 that commands us to put on the full armor of God. Yes, we must determine to not only to know the significance of each part of the warrior's garb, but we must be determined from the very start to wear all the garb. Not half of it, not most of it, all of it. Know what to wear and wear all of it. In a book called The Encourager, Charles Mylander writes, "Surprise was dawning when the Los Angeles motorcycle officer Bob Vernon saw a red pickup truck speed through a stop sign. This guy must be late to work, he thought to himself, and he turned on his emergency lights and he radioed in that he was in pursuit, and the pickup pulled over and the officer approached. And meanwhile in the truck, the driver thought, the cops already know. So he got scared. He rested his hand on the same gun he had used a few moments ago to rob a 24-hour market. The sack of stolen money was beside him on the seat. And the officer said, 'Good morning, sir. May I see your—'" He never finished the sentence. The driver shoved his gun toward the policeman's chest and fired from just inches away, and the cop was knocked flat 7 feet away. A few seconds later, to the shock of the criminal, the officer stood up, pulled his service revolver, fired twice. The first bullet went through the open window and smashed the windshield. The second tore through the door and ripped into the driver's left leg. "Don't shoot!" the thief screamed, throwing the gun and the sack of money out the pickup window. He began to panic. The policeman's life was saved because he arrived on the scene fully dressed. He didn't just wear his motorcycle helmet. He didn't just take his gun. What saved the policeman's life was the dozen layers of Kevlar, the super strong fabric used for bulletproof vests. It's only 3/8 of an inch thick, but it can stop bullets cold. He was saved because he was fully dressed. The Bible instructs us to put on the full armor of God. May every believer decide to be fully dressed at every moment of every day as they walk in the full